Hello and welcome back to the 10-part info series on Magic the Gathering. So, first off, this video is going to cover some of the British literature that can be found in Magic the Gathering. Or some of the British culture, perhaps. British culture, history, literature, the works. So, first off, we have Elspeth, Sun's Champion, which kind of resembles Joan of Arc in a way. However, her native plane in Magic the Gathering is Theros, which is kind of based on Greece, ancient Greece. So that's kind of a blurry line. But still, a lot of the story elements line up. She's protecting her homeland, or a land which she can call home, from a foreign or destructive force. And upon doing so, once she has accomplished her mission, she's killed by a power which was, in part, what she was actually protecting. Now that's the summary version of it. Basically, Elspeth was born and raised on the plane of Bant, or the shard of Alara, the shard of the plane of Alara known as Bant. I think it was Bant. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was Bant. Anyway, over time, she found herself on the plane of Theros and considered it more of a home than Bant ever was to her. And then there's this planeswalker called Xenagos, who kinda causes trouble among the gods of Theros. In British history, Joan of Arc was actually protecting England from political adversaries, such as France. And ultimately, while Joan of Arc was burned at the stake, Elspeth was stabbed through the gut with her own sword, or spear, which originally belonged to the sun god of Theros. Kinda grim, but, well, that's life. Speaking of which, we have another piece of English in Sorin Markov, Vampire Lord of Innistrad, and Planeswalker. Now, this one's kind of an interesting connection. I have been searching quite a long time for a true Count Dracula, and Soren is as close as you're gonna get. First, there's Edgar Markov, who fathered the nature of Soren being a vampire, which is much akin to the relationship, but not entirely akin to the relationship between Vladimir and Dracula. But that is not exclusively covered in most forms of literature backing the story of Count Dracula. Therefore, it is not fully a truthful, well, you know. On the other hand, if you want some real connections, you could say that Soren Markov is among the denizens of his plane, the lordship of Innistrad, and overall its protector. Ultimately, he was imprisoned in stone by someone of whom he had done wrong, and not of his own intent. Similarly, Count Dracula was slain by someone to whom he did wrong that is neither verified nor unverifiable, in that he turned Lucy Westenra into a vampire and killed her, essentially, thereby incurring the wrath of Arthur. Similarly, there was a character in Innistrad lore called Olivia Voldaren, whom Soren Markov wanted to rule beside them, both having, well, let's say Soren was a vampire and Olivia was more or less a human that Soren found himself, at the time, somewhat enamored with, and ultimately, instead of giving the curse to her willingly, certain forces threatened Olivia's mortality, and so Soren kinda just forcefully bestowed upon her that which would support her life. And Olivia kind of grew disdainful of Soren for that reason. But ultimately, Soren Markov is the Magic the Gathering version of Count Dracula, because, well, honestly, that's as close as I can get. There are a few other things in each character's lore, but those are just things that separate them, rather than join them together. Also, there is a card called, like, Accompanied Knight or something, which kinda looks like something out of the story of King Arthur and the sword. It's basically King Arthur his raised brother, like the brother that he was raised with, on a horse, but really the horse is a unicorn and the brother is portrayed as a female. But other than that, the art is very reminiscent of the story of the Sword and the Stone. Also, if you're a Sherlock Holmes fan, you'll note that we have some rather grim-faced inspectors who do not do a very good job of investigation, as is the Thraben investigator here, who is supposed to be looking at some evidence of Amrakul, an Eldrazi god, basically. But it is that he does not really know what it is he is searching for, much as how Arthur Conan Doyle portrays the London inspectors in his Sherlock Holmes novels. If you've been at this as long as I have, nothing can surprise you. That's the hope, at least. And that's the flavor text of Thraben Inspector, so you can imagine how that might link to Sherlock Holmes. And while there are many more references to British literature, those are the most proclaimed of references. And of the references that I have not gone over, some are more of a stretch than others. And these are by far the least stretchy of the references. So, I'll see you in the next video.